Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to Open Mic here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. It's an honor and privilege to have you guys joining me here as we, just a bunch of friends, are going to talk openly about all the different topics we want to talk about. You want to talk movies, the movie news, a little bit of television, maybe even a little bit of sports in there, here and there. And it is Saturday on this holiday weekend, guys. I hope you guys are all having a fantastic weekend. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving and continue to have a great Thanksgiving weekend. Ann and I got a new TV. Not a main TV for our living room. We're very happy with that one, but we had this little 30-inch TV in our bedroom, and we're actually pretty far from where it is. It's a big bedroom, so we're pretty far from it. So we actually found this great deal for this 50-inch 4K TV for $250. And I'm cheap, but I was like, okay, even I will spend for that 4K built-in Roku smart TV 50-inch for $250. So I think that's the first thing I've bought on a Black Friday since living in the United States. I have never gone to a store on Black Friday since I've lived in the United States, but I went that time and I ended up getting something. So you guys get anything interesting? Let us know. All right, let's now go into the questions for today. Yes, what you guys are here for an open mic, so let's get things started. And we're going to get things started with Mike Hill, who writes, where are we seeing here? Mike Hill writes, I was just thinking that, what were we thinking? With the obvious success Lion King will have, any chance for a remake of the sequel done better and differently? Oh, no. I mean, look, it's dumb to say never in this business, because we've seen so many times in so many different ways things happen. So it is absolutely dumb to say never in this business. But man, I come close to saying never for that. No. Well, maybe they do a different rendition of a sequel, but will they remake the one they did with direct-to-home video? No, I can't see that happening. And God, no, I don't want that to happen. Jack Leo writes, I'm at the airport and two kids are reenacting the end of Infinity War. Good reminder that in the end, it's all about having fun and not arguing. Well, arguing can be fun too. I mean, if it's done in the spirit of friendly banter back and forth movie debating, arguing can be a lot of fun. It's when it comes down to the poisonous, cancerous toxicity that we've seen coming from a lot of people with the DC versus Marvel corporate slaves and all that kind of stuff. But yes, when it does come down to it, it's all about being film fans. It's all about having a good time, having fun, sharing ideas and experiences. That's what it should be about. Thank you for reminding us of that, Jack. All right, next one up. Ben Rayner writes, would you call Jerry Maguire a rom-com? You know, there might be an argument to be made for that. Honestly, I've never considered Jerry Maguire a romantic comedy. There are laughs in Jerry Maguire, but is Jerry Maguire a comedy? I don't know. I don't know that just because a movie has a certain amount of laughs in it that it's necessarily counted as a comedy. Look, again, I've never really thought about it. There is an argument to be made for it, but all I can say is for me, I've never considered it a romantic comedy. But I don't know, if somebody's really convinced it is, maybe you can change my mind. But yeah, I've never considered it one at any rate. All right, Ben follows up with, have you ever seen a movie in Cineopolis? One just opened like 1 minute away from me, my new favorite theater. I never have, and I do believe there is, I do believe there is one in LA. I believe there is one in LA. Actually, I think there's one right down in Hollywood. I might be thinking something different, but I think there is. But I can honestly say I've personally never been to it. Like I've never been to one myself personally, no. So no, but I'd be curious to know. I'm going to look it up to see what makes it so different than anything else. The One writes, where is the one? There's the one. The One writes, I have this feeling that Ryan will make a reference of him voicing Pikachu in Deadpool 3 or Once Upon a Deadpool. Well, unfortunately, right now, let's try to get this adjusted here. Unfortunately, right now, we don't know if there's ever going to be a Deadpool 3. I mean, that's just the reality of it. We don't know. I mean, Disney can say all they want to say right now, but really until this whole deal closes and they actually take over all the Fox stuff again, we just won't know what their real plans are for Deadpool. And this thing, give me a second here. And okay. We just won't know what their plans for Deadpool are. until they actually get the property in their hands and go with it. Could they make a reference to it in Once Upon a Deadpool? I don't think so. I don't think they will. Because simply not enough people even know about it. So it would kind of be a wasted joke, a throwaway joke, not to mention. Let me look this up here for a second. But let's see. I'm not sure. Detective Pikachu. I'm not sure who the studio or the distributor are for that. Let me just double check here. Legendary Pictures and Warner Brothers. So is Warner Brothers... Pikachu... Detective Pikachu isn't even a movie yet. I mean, it's a movie, but it hasn't even come out in theaters yet. So is Warner Brothers going to let Ryan Reynolds promote a Fox movie that's not even in theaters yet and probably a lot of people still don't even know about? Is Warner Brothers going to let Fox hijack their movie to throw in something to be a promotion for one of their upcoming films? I doubt it. I doubt it. Like, this isn't a situation like, say, I don't know, them making a Thanos joke in Deadpool 2. Well, there's a couple things. The Deadpool Infinity War cameo was a huge thing. Plus, they both kind of are under the Marvel umbrella, so there's a little bit more of a connection there. I just don't see... Again, if Detective Pikachu had already come out in theaters and had some degree of popularity, yeah, then I could see them making that kind of a joke. But for a movie that hasn't even come out in theaters yet, for a completely unrelated property in a completely different company, is Warner Brothers going to let them hijack their movie to give them a bump and a plug? I don't think so. Again, I wouldn't say never. I won't put anything by Ryan Reynolds, but I wouldn't anticipate that happening. Martin Volek writes, got a Rocky IV soundtrack CD, best soundtrack ever. I wouldn't say it's the best soundtrack ever, but it's definitely a great soundtrack. The Rocky IV soundtrack is amazing. But you know what? The Rocky III soundtrack is pretty damn good too. The Rocky III soundtrack is pretty damn good too. I'm pretty sure Eye of the Tiger came out of one of the great soundtrack songs of all time, Eye of the Tiger. I believe that came out of Rocky III, but Rocky IV absolutely has a fantastic soundtrack. All right. Zach Bartran writes, I've always wondered, can anyone be nominated or win an Oscar, or does someone have to be a part of one of the many guilds to be eligible? I do not believe you have to be in any of the guilds to be eligible to be nominated for an Oscar. I'm pretty sure that's not a requirement. There are many requirements in Hollywood that do need you to be a part of the guilds and all that kind of stuff, but to actually qualify for an Oscar, I've gone over the list of eligibility requirements in Oscar rules before, and I don't ever remember, and I could be wrong about this, but I don't ever remember any stipulation in the eligibility requirements saying you have to be a part of, to be nominated for Best Actor, you have to be part of the SAG, Screen Actors Guild. I've never seen that requirement. I've never seen a requirement that says to be nominated for Best Director, you have to be a member of the Directors Guild of America. I've never seen that before either. Or the Screenwriters Guild or whatever. So my guess is, although I could be wrong about this, I'm just speculating here. Based on what I've read before, I do not believe you have to be in one of the guilds to be eligible. I could be wrong about that, but I don't have any recollection of seeing something contrary to that. Ben Rayner writes, just saw Creed 2, great flick. I really enjoyed Creed 2. I really enjoyed it. Not as good, I mean, I've said this before, not quite as good as Creed 1. It is formulaic, but it's executed so well that the formula works. And I had a really good time watching it. I thought it was quite good. Angry Irish Benjamin writes, Ralph Breaks the Internet is coming to cinemas in Ireland next Friday. I can hardly wait. Such a good time. There's a lot like Creed in that I still think the original Wreck-It Ralph is better than Ralph Breaks the Internet, but that's not necessary. That's not a bad thing. It's still great. It's got depth to it. It's got more depth to it actually than the first Wreck-It Ralph does. Almost as many laughs, not quite, but almost as many laughs. Very endearing, very charming. The pop cultural references all serve a purpose, which is great. They're not just pop cultural references for the sake of pop cultural references. They're pop cultural references that all have a point. And that was great to see. It's a really enjoyable movie, Angry Irish Benjamin, and I'm excited for all you guys to see it because it's a lot of fun. All right. Zach Bartran writes, have you seen the trailer for Peter Jackson's World War I documentary, They Shall Not Grow Old? Yes, actually, a lot of people have been talking about it, especially on these shows, too. A lot of people writing in talking about it. Now, I haven't seen the movie itself, but yeah, man, I'm very, very excited to see this. I've never seen a Peter Jackson documentary before, unless I'm forgetting about one. But I know this has been a really important passion project for him. And everything I've seen from it, everything I've heard about it, all is really good. So yeah, I'm quite excited to see it. Zach follows up with, any ideas on when to expect social media reactions for Bumblebee? No idea. I do know this. They're doing an advanced public screening on December 8th. All right. The movie comes out on the 21st, but they went and sold tickets for an advanced fan screening for December 8th. I got 2 tickets for that. So, at the very latest, you're going to hear reviews online and on social media. At the very latest is going to be December 8th. Because they can't have any embargo on this because people bought tickets to it. Right? It was publicly on sale. You could go to your Fandango or whatever, buy tickets, so there's no embargo there. So the very latest you're going to hear reviews and reactions is going to be December 8th. The likelihood is that they will probably have a couple of press screenings just prior to that, and at least the social media embargo will lift just prior to that. So I'm guessing probably somewhere around December 6th, December 7th. But again, at the very, very latest, you're going to get these reactions December 8th because there's already going to be public screenings. So the 8th is the latest you're going to have to wait. Let's see here. Scarlet Witch's husband writes, in Castaway, what if that package he never opened was a fully charged, waterproof satellite phone? Boom. Yeah, we were just talking about Castaway the other day. What a magnificent movie Castaway is. What an absolutely magnificent movie Castaway is. You know, and I talked about it the other day, but I'll take the opportunity to talk about any time. That scene at the end, man, or near the end, when he's in the hotel room with his buddy, and basically, how did you survive? Because I just kept breathing, because you never know what was going to come in on the tide the next day. I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically it, right? And I have known people in my life who have committed suicide, and I wish I could go back in time and show them that scene. That no matter how dark and bleak and awful life seems right now, you never know how life is going to change tomorrow. You never know how life is going to change tomorrow. The unexpected happens every day, and it's such a special movie and such a powerful message that I wish more people could see. But anyway, yeah, that one package he just didn't open, there was something very symbolic about that. But what if inside was a fully charged waterproof satellite phone? Angry Irish Benjamin writes in again. The idea that Sony would take Spider-Man out of the MCU is ludicrous. Oh, but they would do it. Make no mistake about it. They're the ones who wanted him in the MCU in the first place. Yeah, that's yes and no. Depends on your point of view, but that's yes and no. And they tried to get Venom into the MCU before giving up. Again, yes and no. There are some people who write that, but it's a lot more complicated than that. But Irish Benjamin follows up with, besides, given Sony released so many Venom clips before it came out, I suspect it was the critics they had no confidence in, suspecting them to not give it a fair shake, and they were right about that. Oh, Angry Irish, come on, man. You're smarter than that. You're smarter than that. Look, I am so tired. It's getting so tired and so boring of people not being able to handle that somebody else didn't share the same opinion as the movie did, so they try to make up excuses and come up with ulterior motives. Oh, there's a critic who didn't like that movie? Well, then they just didn't want to give it a fair shot. No, they just watched it and they just didn't like it. Critics gave Venom a fair shot. They did. I know a number of critics who were actually looking forward to Venom and were kind of excited about it, and they walked out disappointed. And look, even me, I had a good time with Venom. I liked it, but the moment I walked out of it, the first time I saw it with Ray. And when I walked out of Venom with Ray, the first thing I said was, man, I had a good time, but yeah, I can see this is not going to be for everybody. Because there's this problem and this problem and this problem and this problem. I can see how there are going to be people that don't like this movie. It's one of the first things I said coming out of it. And honestly, you'd have to be a little bit naive not to acknowledge, yeah, I could see why people wouldn't like this, but it worked for me. And it worked for a lot of people. You saw my review. I had a good time with it. I liked it. But come on, man. Get past this old, tired bullshit of making excuses for why some people didn't have the same opinion that you did. All right? I know a lot of film critics. And I know a lot of film critics went into Venom wanting to like it. I know them for a fact. I know that for a fact. And they walked out, a number of them walked out disappointed. And by the way, there were a bunch of critics that still liked it. So hold on a second. Let me, at least 20%, I think. At least 1 out of every 5 critics, or maybe the number's higher than that. But if you go to Venom, it's 30%. So like 3 out of every 10 critics did like it. So are you saying that only the film critics who had the same opinion as you are the ones who gave it a fair shot, and anybody who didn't have the same opinion as you, you're making up an excuse and saying, well, then they just didn't give it a fair shot? Or is it possible they did give it a fair shot and they just didn't like it as much as you did? Like this whole habit we have of film fans of making up bullshit excuses for why somebody else, whether it's other fans or whether it's critics, not having the same opinion as us is getting really tired. And you're smarter than that. And we're all smarter than that. We got to get past that bullshit. Because that's all it is. It's bullshit. They did give it a fair shot. They just watched it and it didn't work for them. 3 out of 10 of them, they watched it and it did work for them. 7 out of 10 of them watched it and they didn't work for them. It worked for me, but I mean, I like Justice League, so take that. I thought Justice League was, but it didn't work for a lot of other people. It worked for me, but I could see how it wasn't for everybody. They did some things really sloppy in Venom. And I'll tell you what, if it wasn't for the fact that the Eddie symbiote relationship worked so well, this movie would have fallen flat on its face. Because it did a lot of the other things badly. It did. But the Eddie symbiote stuff was so good and so enjoyable. To me, that outweighed everything else. But for other people, it didn't outweigh it. Sony didn't have a lot of faith in this movie. I think they knew the weaknesses that they had, and they weren't quite sure how the audience was going to respond. And by the way, not everybody in the audience loved it either. But a lot of us did. A lot of us did. And make no mistake, Sony would take Spider-Man back from the MCU. They absolutely would. 100% they would. If Venom had failed, they would have put the wheels in motion to start the process of getting Spider-Man back. If Venom had failed, I'm just telling you that right now. I'm just telling you that right now. Because they want their own cinematic superhero universe. And if Venom had flopped, and they had been left with, well, I guess we can't do it without Spider-Man, and every single Spider-Man movie we've ever made, ever in history, has always made at least over $700 million, they would have taken him back. Make no mistake about that. It's not even up for debate. They would have taken, or at least started things in motion that they were going to take him back. And by the way, I don't think Venom becoming a huge hit guarantees that 5 years from now, Spider-Man will still be in the MCU. I think it increases the chances that Sony will leave Spider-Man over there, but I don't think it's a guarantee. So yeah, make no mistake, they would have taken him back, or at least started the process and put the wheels in motion to take him back. But good news for everybody. Venom was a big mega hit, made over $800 million and still climbing. I mean, it's almost done its run, but right now it's still climbing. Sony's happy. Marvel's happy. The fans are happy. We're all happy. It's good news for all of us. But I cannot emphasize this enough, guys. We as film fans need to stop this totally weak practice because it just makes us look mentally weak. When, oh, somebody else has a different opinion than I do? Well, I must come up with some ulterior motive, some excuse as to why they didn't like it. It couldn't possibly just be that they watched it with an open mind and didn't come to the same conclusion as me. Therefore, it must be a conspiracy. We look like idiots when we do that, guys. And I'm guilty of it. We all do it, right? I've done that sometimes and caught myself afterwards. Like, geez, and I still do. And I think a bunch of you guys do too. I think we all do it at some point. But we got to become vigilant about catching ourselves doing that because it is weak. It's weak, and we got to stop. We got to stop. Guess what, guys? The subjectivity of film means there are going to be other people who see the same movies that we see with an open mind and come to a different conclusion than we did. That's the subjectivity of film. That's the truth. And if somebody likes something we didn't like, that doesn't mean they're biased. That doesn't mean there's an ulterior motive. That doesn't necessarily mean there's a conspiracy. That doesn't mean we need to come up with an excuse to protect our fragile minds. Oh, I can't handle that somebody else liked something I didn't. Therefore, I got to come up with some reason they didn't. We got to let that go. We got to let that go. There are people who watched The Last Jedi and didn't like it. They just didn't like it. There are people who watched The Last Jedi and liked it. They liked it. There are people who saw Venom, really enjoyed it. I'm one of them. There are people who saw Venom and didn't enjoy it. And guess what? We don't need to come up with some lame-ass bullshit excuse like saying they were biased or saying they just didn't go into it to give it a fair shot. Or we don't need to do that, my friends. We don't need to do that. We got to come to grips with that. And film fandom is never going to become a civil place until we all accept that one underlying truth of it. So, yeah, Angry Irish, no. Sony, I know for a fact, because I know people at Sony. Sony was not exactly sure how the audience was going to react to it. And no, it's not that the critics didn't give Venom a fair shot. Yes, they did, because I know several of these critics who were excited about Venom, but they didn't enjoy it. So we got to let all this other BS go, my friends. We got to let it all go. So, and by the way, guys, call me out on it because I do it too. I do it. I'm going to admit it right now. I do it, and it frustrates me that I do it. So do me a favor and call me out on it when I do it too. And let's just get back to being film fans. Anyway, that's just my thought. But thank you for sharing your thoughts on that, Angry Irish. Adamus95 writes, can't wait for the Lion King remake, but must admit, wouldn't have minded Jeremy Irons coming back as Scar. Have a good day, John. Look, I think if you reboot, you reboot. But I celebrated when they said James Earl Jones was coming back. But there is a part of me, because Mufasa and Scar, James Earl Jones, Jeremy Irons, there's a part of me that kind of feels like if you were going to bring back James Earl Jones, you probably should have brought back Jeremy Irons to do the voice of Mufasa. And if you're not going to bring back Jeremy Irons to do the voice of Mufasa, then don't bring back James Earl Jones to do if you're not going to bring back Jeremy Irons to do the voice of Scar, then don't bring back James Earl Jones to do the voice of Mufasa. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm as giddy as anybody hearing James Earl Jones. Everything the light touches is all kingdom. I can't do it, James Earl Jones. Anyway, I was as giddy as anybody to hear his voice. But I will confess there is a part of me that kind of feels like, well, if you're going to bring back James Earl Jones, and I don't think that necessarily means you have to bring all the original voice cast back, but Mufasa and Scar and Mufasa. If you're going to bring back James Earl Jones, bring back Jeremy Irons. And if you're not going to bring back Jeremy Irons, then don't bring back... There's a part of me that feels that way. Not entirely, just a part of me, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, I would have got a big kick to hear him doing that. But don't get me wrong, Chiwetel Ejiofor is one of my favorite actors in the business. I'm very excited to hear his rendition of Scar at the same time. All right. Ben Rayner writes, it's like if the Beatles were produced by Nickelback. It's still music, but it sucks. I'm very funny. And you know what? There's actually some Nickelback stuff I like. I'll joke about Nickelback with everybody else too, but I'd be look, there's a lot of hypocrites out there because there's a reason Nickelback has so many, platinum albums and songs. But, oh my God, all the shit was all the same. That joke was really funny though. It's music, but it sucks. It was really, Fred Savage did that line so great. Film Boss writes, Hey, John, Titanic holds a theatrical re-release. Yes, it does. I looked that up myself afterwards, actually. Grossing $343 million in its 2012 3D theatrical re-release, pushing it over $2 billion. Crazy. Yeah, because what I had said at the time was, I totally forgot about the Titanic re-release, and I just talked about the Star Wars one. When Star Wars, the special edition, got its release in 1997, I believe. And it made like $134 million, something like that. Anyway. I totally forgot about the Titanic one, but I've been reminded of that many times after. And it is crazy. Like, it's nuts they can come out and make that much money. Nothing else has ever come as close, though. Nothing else has ever come as close. Martin Volek writes, thoughts on John Goodman's King Ralph? First, look, I'm a big John Goodman fan, like everybody. Everybody's a big John Goodman fan. And by the way, he does not get enough credit for, granted, his relatively small part, but in... the one George Clooney, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? I loved him in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? But then again, I love him in everything. He's great. King Ralph was certainly a movie with promise. Has a whole to do with, like, he's a distant relative of this, and the certain house did this, and going through the eligible things, it ends up being Ralph is king. I mean, it's an interesting idea for comedy. I will admit I was disappointed in it myself, but I'm glad you liked it, Martin. Man, you know what? By the way, Martin, congratulations. I believe in the history of the John Campea show, be it the John Campea show or open mics or anything, I believe you are the first person in the history of this channel to bring up King Ralph. So there's your badge of honor for that. Stubble McShave writes, I saw the latest Mortal Engines trailer. Looks awesome. Hey, look, I got to tell you what. I don't know how they should have marketed this film differently, but they should have had a different marketing plan, because I do believe Mortal Engines is going to struggle a lot at the box office. Not the least of which is because of when it's opening up in that death window in December. But it's going to struggle. But I'll say the last few trailers, I definitely think it looks like a good movie. I'm intrigued. I absolutely think it looks like a good movie. And I know nothing about the original novels. I know nothing about the original books, but I'm with you. I'm excited to see this film. I mean, I'm more excited to see Mary Poppins, and I'm more excited to see Bumblebee, and I'm certainly more excited to see Aquaman. But I'm more excited to see Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse too, which I wasn't before. But yeah, I am also quite excited to see Mortal Engines. I think it looks like quite a good film. Javier Rios 405 writes, do you think had Sony not released the Venom review embargo 24 hours before it opened and showed confidence in their movie, it would have made more or less money overall? Or would it not have mattered? Well, I don't think, given that it wasn't going to change how good or bad the reviews were, I don't think it would have mattered all that much. If anything, it may have... it depends. I mean, I think you can make an argument for it both ways. On one hand, Sony probably realized, didn't have a lot of confidence in their film. They weren't sure how the audience was going to react. They didn't know what the critics were going to think. So it's like, hold off the reviews. That probably turned some people off. And when no reviews, then it sucks. And probably it turned some people off. On the other hand, if the negative reviews had come out a couple of days earlier, maybe that would have turned some of the people who did go opening weekend away. So I could see it having drawbacks either way. So I'm going to call it a wash. If the reviews had been like 0, it would have affected it negatively. If the reviews had been like 90, it would have affected it positively. But since the reviews just would have stayed the same either way, I got a feeling it balanced each other out. I know there are people who were turned off by the fact that there were no reviews, like going into the weekend. So they just took a pass on it. But if the reviews had come out negative a few days earlier, that might have turned away some people who were going to go and check it out. So it probably balances itself out. And I'm going to say I'm going to call it a wash. Stubble McShave writes, nice beaver. Thank you. I just had it stuffed. That is, I can't remember if it's Naked Gun, the first one or the second one. I think it was the second one. It was Leslie Nielsen and Priscilla Presley. When she's going up the ladder, he says, nice beaver. I bet that she comes down with a stuffed beaver. Classic Naked Gun humor. Let's see. Javier Riaz 405 writes, what's the better movie, Lady Bird or Sorry to Bother You? I found Lady Bird boring, but I didn't think Lady Bird was a crime against humanity. I thought Sorry to Bother You was a crime against humanity. I thought it was awful, like vomitously awful. One of the worst films I've seen all year. It was just terrible. But hey, a lot of people liked it. There you go. I just watched it and I almost couldn't get through it. It was so bad. But so I will say that the better film is Lady Bird. Martin Velik writes, I absolutely hate when re-release movies like Titanic or Jurassic Park box office counts to the all-time numbers. So confusing, and it's a goddamn cheat. It's not a cheat at all. It's not a cheat at all. Look, if your movie is so good that people will come back to the theater and pay money to come see your movie in a theater, then there is no reason, in my opinion, there's no reason that shouldn't count. People are willing to pay money and buy a ticket to come watch the movie in theater. That's all that counts to me. Whether it's first release or it's a re-release, makes no difference. People are willing to pay money to buy a ticket to come see your movie in theater, it should count towards your overall box office. Because look, you re-release, I don't know, let's say, what's a movie from last year? I don't know. You re-release, why am I drawing a complete blank on every movie that came out last year? Let me pull up some movies that came out last year. Let's see, yearly, 2017, there we go. Okay, you re-release Cars 3 in theater. No one's going to go back to watch it again. No one's going to pay money to come back and watch that again. You release The Hitman's Bodyguard, re-released in theater. No one's going to go back to watch that again. I liked Hitman's Bodyguard, by the way, but hey, I can pay $15 to go watch it in theater, or I can rent it on Google Play for $3 and watch it at home. I will rent it for $3 and watch it at home. Thank you very much. So if your movie is so beloved that people are willing to pay money and buy tickets to go watch it in the theater, in my opinion, that should totally count. Totally should count. Absolutely. Why not? Why not? Because if you can make the argument that if every movie re-released, they'd add a whole bunch of money to their box office totals, well, then maybe that's cheating. But the fact of the matter is not. There's only a few movies that people would actually do that for. And by the way, only a handful of movies in history have done any kind of re-release that made any kind of money, really. Most of them, it's just a tiny little scratch. So, yeah, I've got no problem with it, to be honest with you. I'm not poo-pooing on you if you have a problem with it, not at all. But from my point of view, from my perspective, I got zero issue with it. Because it's so rare, and there's so few films that I would actually make a difference. But again, it's bottom line. Every time somebody is willing to pay money to buy a ticket to go see your movie in theaters, that counts towards your box office. I don't care if it's your original release or a re-release. And in today's day and age, it's even harder to do that because why wouldn't somebody just sit at home and watch it? So anyway, that's just my thought. Let's see. Stubble McShave writes, in 15 days, Kirk Douglas returned 102. That's crazy. And which award show was it? I don't think it was maybe it was the Oscars. I don't think it might have been the Golden Globes, but there was an award show recently where Kirk Douglas came out with his daughter-in-law, Catherine Zeta-Jones. And like, this dude's over 100 years old and he's in rough shape. Yes, but mentally he's totally sharp and all that kind of stuff. And good on him, man. Good on him. Kirk Douglas, a man's man, dude. 102. May he reach 104. Okay. Martin Volek writes, Titanic didn't cross 2 billion and Jurassic Park didn't cross 1 billion on original release. Just re-release all classics and say all the made over 1 billion fake. Except that here's the problem, Martin. Your underlying assumption is completely wrong. Your underlying assumption is completely wrong. Like, you're just assuming any movie you put out is going to make an extra $100 million. That is just not true. Look at Close Encounters of the Third Kind. How much did that make on its re-release? Pocket change. Bus fare. You know, your underlying hypothesis here is all predicated on an assumption that if you put any of these movies back in theater, they'll all make another 80 million, another 100 million, and that is just false. That's just not true. The numbers prove that that's not true. The numbers 100% prove that's not true. They did just re-release a big all-time classic in Close Encounters, made bus fare. Basically made bus fare. You re-release Lawrence of Arabia. It's going to make bus fare. If bus fare. Because we also just live in a day and age where anybody just go, oh yeah, I could go out for the evening and spend $12 on a movie ticket and go watch it there. Or I could spend $3.99 and just hit on my remote control right now and watch it right now. Go. You know? It's like you seem to be making this assumption that happened with that movie, so that's what would happen with every movie. Everybody would rush out in theaters and watch re-releases all the time. No, the numbers prove it. There are a couple of very, very few exceptions, but that's just not the case. That's just not the case. These are exceptional things you're pointing out, and if those movies are so exceptional that people are willing to pay money to buy a ticket to go out and see your movie, then to me, it should count towards the box office. It absolutely should. I just don't believe there's any compelling reason against it. Now, again, your opinion is every bit as valid as mine. I'm just saying I can't agree with you on that for those reasons. But that's just me. I'm sure there are people who agree with you. I'm just saying that's just kind of the way I see it. All right, let's move on here. And the next one comes to us from Michael Jones, who writes, "You were right, John. I went to see Green Book, very good movie, and asked them, You were right, John. I went to go see Green Book, very good movie, and asked them, doesn't this AMC theater have reserved seating? And he said, we are getting it recliners in January. Oh, okay, so there you go. So this is going back to something we talked about the other day. I have been on a personal crusade as a film fan for 10 years that the movie theater industry needs to get out of the dark ages, and every movie theater in North America should have pre-assigned seating. And if your theater that you go to locally doesn't have pre-assigned seating, go up to the manager sometime and say, why are you still stuck in the dark ages? Why do we have to do this arcade? Why for any concert that I go to and I buy a ticket, I know exactly where my seat is? Why when I get on an airline other than Southwest, when I buy my ticket, I know exactly where my seat is? Why is it when I go to a football game and I buy my ticket, I know exactly where my seat is? And I'm not expected to show up early and fight to try to get a half-decent seat. I bought my ticket, I know where my seat is. How come we don't do that in the movies? Now, fortunately, over the past couple of years, we've seen a large change. A lot of theaters now, dare I say most theaters now, do have pre-assigned seating. There are still some theater chains kind of struggling in the dark ages. And by the way, I'm going to call out Cineplex in Canada. I'm going to call you out. Now, I love Cineplex in Canada. Most of my favorite movie-going memories in my life are spent in Cineplex theaters, particularly the Cineplex, the Silver City in Ancaster, Ontario. A lot of my favorite movie-going moments happened in that theater. I love that movie theater. I still go to that movie theater when I visit Canada during Christmas time. But I got to call out Cineplex because last year, back for Christmas, we went out to the movies a couple of times. And I was shocked to find out that in this big Cineplex theater that had like 18 screens, there was only like 2 of them that you could actually get pre-assigned seating. 2 of them. And Cineplex was just trying to screw over the customers because they charged more for those theaters. Oh, you want to be able to pick your seat? Well, we got to charge extra for that. That's BS, Cineplex. And you know it. As a Canadian film fan, I am calling out Cineplex. That's BS. And I love you, Cineplex. I got a warm place in my heart for you. But even though I love you, I got to call bullshit when I see it. And that's bullshit. That's bullshit. That's you taking advantage of the monopoly you have. That's got to change. And if you are somebody that lives in Canada and you're anywhere near a Cineplex, go grab a theater manager and demand to know. Why are you guys insisting on keeping this in the dark ages? How come down in the United States, all their theaters are transitioning to this and not charging extra for it? At least most of them aren't. And how come you guys are still doing this? Explain that to me, please, as a film fan, as a patron of your establishment. Please explain to me why this is happening. It's BS. It needs to change, but thankfully it is changing. So thanks for sharing your experience with that, Michael. All right. Philip Dax writes, Green Book, what did you think of it? No review. No, because I saw it late. You know me, if I see a movie late, and by late I mean, after its opening weekend, then I don't review it because there's no point. No one's looking for Green Book reviews after its opening weekend. That's just a statistical fact. You can look online with analytics. People just don't look, so there's no point in me doing it. But I did talk about it on the John Campea show the other day. It wasn't quite the earth-moving movie I was looking forward to, but it is spectacular. It's great. I enjoyed it deeply, enjoyed it very, very much. But yeah. So now I get likes, writes, well, if I'm wrong, what more could I lose, Thor? I still contend that scene between Thor and Rocket was the best scene of Avengers Infinity War. And listen to the Russo brothers talk about that scene. Like, they believe the only actor in all of the MCU, notwithstanding an Anthony Hopkins or anything like that, but that really out of all the regular cast of characters in the MCU, the only actor who could pull that scene off really was Chris Hemsworth. They believe Chris Hemsworth is the best actor in the MCU, notwithstanding an Anthony Hopkins, but as a full-time regular member of the MCU, he's the best actor they've got. And I agree with them. And that scene, number one, was so well written, but maybe even more importantly, so perfectly executed from the direction to the performance. Because if Chris Hemsworth doesn't absolutely nail that scene, it just becomes another scene in the movie. But instead, it's the most powerful scene in the movie. I think it's the best scene in the movie. It's the one I would just go to over and over and over again and watch. It's a phenomenal scene. I love it, and thanks for bringing it up. Jared Vester writes, okay, so if you think Mary Poppins will be the best film in December quality-wise, what do you think will be the worst film from what you can guess? It pains me to say it, but Holmes and Watson. And believe me, that hurts me to say that. It hurts me to say that. You have no idea how much it hurts me to say that, because Step Brothers is one of my all-time favorite comedies, top 5 easily, maybe even top 3. Would have to fight with Anchorman for that third spot, but top 5. I can easily say top 5. I love John C. Reilly and Will Ferrell together. And I was so excited about this Holmes and Watson movie. And then I saw the trailer, and holy crap, is it bad. It's so bad. It's so bad. So, and who knows? We've seen lots of great trailers turn out to be horrible movies. We've seen a whole bunch of terrible trailers turn out to be great movies. Maybe that'll be the case here. Maybe Holmes and Watson will be great. But right now, sadly and unfortunately, my guess that the worst film of December is probably going to be Holmes and Watson. I hope to see it, and I hope I get proven wrong. Again, that's just a guess. That's just a guess. I'm going to go in and give it a shot, but if you're asking me to speculate and make a wild guess, my wild guess is Holmes and Watson will probably be the worst one. All right, let's move on here. Where are we at? Thomas Dixon writes, I still want to see a Revolutionary War movie in the vein of a 300 style movie. Wasn't this talked about before? I think it could be fun. Maybe. The thing about 300 is you're now going into, you're getting to the realms of mythology, right? Like you're getting the Revolutionary War. I don't know. I think there's a lot of sensitivities you'd have to be really, again, look, I'm not even American, right? So, but I just got to believe that with things like the Revolutionary War and things like that, there are certain things you can't do, because there are things you can do in 300 and that's great. But there are certain things done in 300 that if you do in the Revolutionary War thing, some people could look at that and say it's disrespectful the way you handle that, right? So I don't know. Look, I don't want to be hypocritical here, though, because the reality is, Thomas, if they did announce like a Revolutionary War thing done in the style of 300, I must admit, I would be intrigued. I'd be plenty intrigued. But is it something you can actually do? I don't know. I don't think any studio would want to do it. It's just, there's too many potential landmines there. So I'm guessing not. But I'm kind of with you that I'd be intrigued about it. I'd at least be intrigued about it, I got to say. All right. Orange Hand writes, impressive how Daredevil can have 3 sets of showrunners across 3 seasons and still be great, unlike other shows that have suffered from this. And you know what? I mean, first of all, you're absolutely right. It is really impressive when a show can go through different showrunners and maintain a good quality. Quite often, that's not the case. And by the way, there are a lot of shows, too, that keep their showrunners that are never good. But you're right. That is a big hurdle. Not only have they maintained the quality of the show, they've never failed for it to still feel very consistent. Season 3 of Daredevil feels very consistent with Season 1 of Daredevil, which I believe it was Stephen S. DeKnight, I believe, was the showrunner for Season 1. Then there's another showrunner for Season 2, then another showrunner for Season 3. Not only have they maintained the quality, they've maintained the consistency. It doesn't feel, because I've seen plenty of shows that have changed major writers or changed showrunners, and it just felt like a different show. Like, you can just tell. There were seasons of Friends, I remember, that you can just tell which seasons had a different writer's room than another season, right? You can just tell. Daredevil never experienced that. And I think that just makes it even more impressive. Let's see here. Cornflakes writes, I love that name. Lion King is going to hit adults more than kids. I don't know. It's impossible to say without seeing the movie. But I know a lot of adults, including this one, that was just so moved, so floored, and so swept up in that Lion King trailer that came out. It's just so jaw-droppingly perfect for a first teaser. For a first teaser, it is absolute perfection. Because in that teaser, you showed off the updated medium. You appealed to the sense of nostalgia. You very clearly communicated to the audience the Lion King is returning. Like, you just did everything you need to do in a first teaser trailer for that movie. They did, and did it perfectly. And it's going to hit adults hard. Whether or not it'll hit adults or kids more, we're going to have to wait to see the movie. It's hard to say at this point. Victor Watson writes, hey, John, my oldest son texted me and asked if I would be interested in seeing Ralph Breaks the Internet with him and my 3 grandkids. Didn't really want to, but I said, what the hey? I love it, and I'm glad that you did, because it is so clever and so great. And by the way, there's a lot of jokes in that. They're going to go over kids' heads. That is the brilliance. I've talked about this before, Victor. It bears repeating. The brilliance of Pixar. And remember, you can say, but this is Disney animation. Well, yeah, but remember, John Lasseter was the head of both for the longest time. They are so their DNA now is so intermingled, it's crazy. But anyway, what John Lasseter brought, and obviously he's not there anymore, but what John Lasseter brought to Pixar and ultimately into Disney Animation as well, as he was the head of both studios, was this idea that these are movies that are not kids' movies. They are movies that are kid-friendly, but a lot of their humor and jokes are targeted at adults. Done in a very whimsical but hard-hitting and impactful way. And that's what Pixar's brought to the table for so long. Again, I talked about it before, but look at the first Incredibles. You cannot, with a straight face, say The Incredibles is a kids' movie. Kids know nothing about getting past a mid-age crisis, struggling with what it means to be a parent, wrestling with the whole idea of former glories and what your potential was a few decades ago and now looking where you are now and blah, blah. These are all adult issues that kids won't even begin to be able to wrap their heads around or have any idea what's going on screen over. But they're very kid-friendly movies, so there's a lot in there for them too. Wreck-It Ralph, Ralph Breaks the Internet, while certainly more kid-friendly than like that original Incredibles, there's a lot of humor and jokes and scenarios and scenes, and maybe even ultimately the moral of the story, that really is targeted at adults. And I'm super glad, Victor, that you gave the movie a shot. And hey, if you haven't seen the original, go back and give the original a try too. You might like that one as well. All right, thanks for sharing that, Victor. All right. Murray Reich writes, all of my married siblings are always so busy with their lives, so they are always unable to see a movie. But as soon as I sent them the Lion King trailer, they went, we must see this immediately, LOL. And you know what? That's one of the things, Murray. You know, when the trailer came out, and we talked about this on the John Campea show, when the trailer came out, I shared this. I said 48 hours ago, before the Lion King trailer had come out, I said 48 hours ago, if you had asked me what was going to be the biggest movie of 2019, easy, no question, Avengers 4. Avengers 4 is going to be the biggest movie of the year. Star Wars Episode 9 is going to be big. Lion King's going to be big. A couple others are going to be big. But obviously, Avengers 4 is going to be the biggest. But that was 48 hours ago. And it's not the trailer that has made me rethink that. It's the global, worldwide reaction to the trailer I'm seeing that is making me reconsider that. I'm not ready to take a $100 bill out of my wallet and say, I bet you anything Lion King will be the #1 box office film of 2019. But I tell you what, I think there is a solid chance it can, because it is that type of movie that is clearly, and this goes directly to the story you just told, Murray, it's that type of movie that is going to get people who don't go to the movies going to the movies. Lion King and that trailer is going to be the type of movie that gets people who do not normally go to the movies are going to be going to the movies, and getting people who go to the movies going to the movies. It is going to be very, very interesting. And 48, at this point, I guess 72 hours ago, I never would have thought that. I thought, yeah, Lion King will be big. Yeah, like it, but I mean, it's going to be Avengers 4. Clearly, by a mile. Nothing even close, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, well, that was 72 hours ago. And since that time, the trailer came out, but it's not the trailer. It is the global, worldwide reaction to that trailer that has made a lot of people like myself sit up and take notice. And I think your example, Murray, like, you got your siblings, none of them go to the movies, blah, blah, blah. Lion King trailer drops. We have to see this movie. And I think there's a lot of people out there who are not moviegoers generally that are going to be lining up to buy their tickets to go see Lion King. I'm telling you guys, this could be the biggest movie of 2019. Not a movie that starts with Marvels and not a movie that starts with Star Wars, but rather Lion King. Could be. I'm not ready to say that it is. I'm not willing to put my money out and bet on that at this point. But where my head is at, and I think a lot of us, where our head is at regarding this issue, is radically different from where our head was at 72 hours ago. The world has changed in the landscape of the 2019 box office potential. That world has changed in 72 hours. How close will it be? Will it beat out Avengers 4? I mean, I don't know. There's still a lot of questions to be asked. But right now, I'm telling you, my thinking has changed. Let's see. Javier Rios 405 writes, did you like How I Met Your Mother or its ending? I gotta admit, I never watched a lot of How I Met Your Mother. And what I watched, I actually thought was not all that great. Let me rephrase. That didn't come out right. That made it sound like I didn't like it. It's not that I didn't like it. It's just like, oh, yeah. But I know people who think How I Met Your Mother. I mean, we get into the discussion of the greatest sitcoms of all time. You know, you're talking Seinfeld. You're talking The Office. You're talking Cheers. You're talking, to me, I put Parks and Rec up there. But there's a lot of people I know personally who, once you have that conversation, their conversation will start with How I Met Your Mother. People loved that show, man. I wasn't one of them. I kind of feel the same way about it like I do with Big Bang Theory. I do think How I Met Your Mother is better than Big Bang Theory. I tried several episodes of the Big Bang Theory. I thought it was such a fake show. I just unwatchable almost. But that's just me. I know there's a lot of people who love it, and that's great. But yeah, I got to admit, I never really got into How I Met Your Mother. Never really got into it, honestly. Murray Reich follows up with, best comedy actor of this past decade. Oh, I don't know. That's I'd have to sit down and really look at everything and everybody. I mean, obviously, Will Ferrell has to be right up there and considered. I don't know. Ryan Reynolds has to be considered. But again, that's the type of question where that I would have to sit down, make some lists of movies, go over movie lists, formulate opinions. It's not something I can come up off the top of my head. Victor Watson writes, John, have you seen the trailer for Replicas with Keanu Reeves? Yes. I mean, the first trailer came out like a year ago. And then another trailer came out like last week. I don't know. I'm a big Keanu Reeves fan. Honestly, that was my reaction to the trailer. Certainly nothing I haven't seen before, and that's fine. We can see trailers that don't do anything new, but they can still be excellent. This certainly wasn't anything really haven't seen before. I don't know. It didn't grab me, you know? Like, okay, family died, transfer their consciousness into robotic bodies. Oh, all right. But then again, that doesn't mean the movie's not going to be awesome. I'm curious. I am curious about the film, but yeah, I gotta say that the trailer didn't knock my socks off or anything like that. Darth Impact writes, oh, where'd Darth go? La 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 la. Oh gosh, we had a big jump. Okay, so there are a lot of questions still to go. Hell of a lot of questions still to go. Oh dear God, how many questions have come in today? And we're still moving backwards. There he is. Darth Impact writes, hey John, haven't SCU in a while. I guess you mean Super Chat in a while. Just wanted to say hi and stay filthy. Well, thank you so much, Darth Impact. And hey man, go a year without Super Chatting if you want. Super Chat as much as you want. It doesn't matter. But thank you for that, man. I appreciate that. Thanks for the support. I'm Upset writes, worst Adam Sandler film. Pixels? Oh, that movie's bad. Grown Ups? That movie's so bad. That's My Boy. I think that's the worst. Jack and Jill? Oh, no, maybe that's the worst. Or Zookeeper. Was Adam Sandler in Zookeeper? I don't even remember Adam Sandler being in Zookeeper. Hold on a second. I do not believe... Because that was Kevin, what's his name? Kevin James' movie. I remember because I saw that movie at an early screening at CinemaCon. It's like, oh my God. Kevin James, Rosario Dawson, Leslie Bibb, Ken Jeong. Oh God, I totally forgot Joe Rogan was in it. Was Adam Sandler in there? I don't remember Adam Sandler. Okay, just for argument's sake right now, let's take Zookeeper out of it. Gosh, so many bad films. Pixels, Grown Ups, That's My Boy is wretchedly bad, but I gotta go Jack and Jill. The winner of your question here, I believe, is probably Jack and Jill. Like, woo! I mean, that's one of those movies that, you know what? That's My Boy. Terrible. But I could see why they made it. I could see, you had the concepts good. Grown Ups, terrible, but I could see why you make it. You look at the concept of it and who you can get involved in. I could see why you would take a chance on that and make it. Same with Pixels. Jack and Jill, I just don't know how anybody ever greenlit that movie. I just can't for the life of me imagine why anybody gave a green light to that movie. So I'm going to go Jack and Jill. All right. Victor Watson writes, movies I'm looking forward to in 2019. Replicas, Glass. Oh, Glass. Alita Battle Angel, Happy Death Day to You, Captain Marvel, Dumbo, Pet Sematary, and a few others. 2019 is looking so good. 2019 is looking amazing. The other day, we just pulled up a list of just the Disney films that were coming out. And even Dumbo, which I originally thought might be kind of bad. Then I saw the new trailer. Trailer totally won me over. And I'm totally on board for that. Let me just pull this up right now for a second here. I just want to find my list of the 2000. Here we go. So the 2000, we got Artemis Fowl, which could be interesting. I don't know much about the book series, but it could be interesting. Frozen 2, which I don't care how cool it is to hate on Frozen. Frozen was a good animated film. Frozen was a good movie. I know it's all popular to hate on it and everything. I thought Frozen was a good movie. One of the best animated films ever, no, but I thought it was a quite entertaining movie. Really good music in it. I liked it. So you got Frozen 2 coming. We got Aladdin. I'm dying to see that. We got Captain Marvel, dying to see that. Dumbo won me over. Obviously, we got Toy Story 4. We got Spider-Man Far From Home. We've got Star Wars Episode 9. And we've got Avengers 4. That's just Disney, for heaven's sakes. Then we got Glass. Happy Death Day to You. I love the first Happy Death Day. Pet Sematary looks great. I mean, yeah, and then we're not even talking about the prestige films. We're not even talking about the Oscar caliber films that we haven't even started talking about yet. 2019 looks great. Now, as the law of averages says, a number of these films we're really excited about are probably going to turn out to be shit. Okay, that's just the law of averages. That's just how it works out. Fine, we accept that. But, I mean, so far, though, right now, they do look great, and I'm excited for it. All right, Javier Rios 405 writes, Romanoff, you and Ben are better not be playing Hide the Zucchini. Some of the more delightful lines coming out of the franchise. I see here, Hands of Stone writes, have you ever seen the 1979 Dracula film starring Frank Langella and scored by John Williams? I have seen that film. God, it's been forever since I saw it. Like forever. The guy who played Skeletor? Yeah, the guy who played Skeletor. I can't even remember it. I mean, I remember I saw it, but I remember next to nothing about it because it's been at least 30 years since I've seen it. Minimum 30 years since I've seen it. I was young when I saw it. So, yeah, I saw it, but, and by the way, John Williams, I mean, he's just scored, 500 films in his life? So that's not a big thing. But, yeah, I remember that I saw it, but I cannot remember anything about it. It's just been too long. ETT Media writes, which makes more in the U.S., Avengers 4 or Lion King? Again, that's the question, ETT. 72 hours ago, easy answer. Today, not so easy. Infinity War did. Infinity War made a lot more money worldwide, but domestically, Black Panther made more than that. That could be the case with Lion King. We'll have to wait and find out. Recruz writes, I keep rewatching Ultron's oh, for God's sakes moment. Oh, first of all, you know what? I have gone back and watched Ultron a couple of times now. Mostly because I'd opened up YouTube TV because I used to use Sling, then I used DirecTV, then I used Spectrum's app, and now I use YouTube TV. And I'm very happy with it. Age of Ultron has been on. And so I would slap it on. And you know what? That movie is better than I remember it being. I mean, I always liked it. Right from the first day I saw it, I liked it. But I've watched it a number of times more lately. And it's better than even I remember. It's a really good movie with several great moments. Still my favorite moment, though, is the one between Bruce and Widow. When I'm forgetting the exact wording of it, but she's like, all the guys want to win the fight, but then there's this guy who does everything to avoid the fight because he knows he'll win. Talking about Bruce. Chilling moment. And there's several great moments in it. And it's a better movie than I think a lot of people remember or give it credit for. Factual Opinion writes, I'd give my left nut to see Tom Hardy's Bane fight Batfleck. They both have excellent hand-to-hand combat skills. I'd be down for that. Look, I'd give my left nut, factual opinion at this point, just to see Ben Affleck as Batman again. Because Ben Affleck has been my favorite Batman on screen to date. I would give my left nut just to see him back again, but we all know that's not going to happen. But, oh my God, yes. If you were to somehow say, we're bringing Bane into the DCU and we are casting Tom Hardy as Bane, I'm all over the moon. I'm over the moon about it. Love to see it. That would be great. But then again, like I said, I'd just be happy to see Ben Affleck back as Batman again. Joshua to a Saint writes, see The Hate You Give and Searching before you do your top 10 list. Both incredibly powerful and emotionally moving. I did get around to seeing Searching. Very good. I don't think it was as good as the hype I heard prior to seeing it, but very good. I enjoyed it very much. The Hate You Give, I'm still behind on. I got to see that too. As of right now, Searching may squeak into my top 10. I have my doubts it'll get in my top 10 by the end of the year, but it may at this point because it's really, so much better than the marketing. Because despite the fact that I had John Cho and I like him a lot, or Deborah Messing and I really like her, the trailers just made it look like a cheap throwaway ABC movie of the week. You know what I mean? It looked bad. And I probably wouldn't have seen it at all if it wasn't for all these people I know seeing it and saying, John, you got to see Searching. So I finally saw Searching, and damn, it's good. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But thanks for that, Joshua. Geo writes, better. Fruitvale Station, Creed, Room, Age of Ultron. Whew. Well, there's such... It's difficult, Gio. You're not comparing apples to apples. So many of those films are so different from the other. Fruitvale Station, so different from Creed, so different from Room, so different from Age of Ultron. I mean, there's just no comparing them. I'm going to guess overall the best film on that list. Well, it's either Creed or Room. I'll go Creed. But you may ask me that same question again in 6 months, and I might give a completely different answer because you're comparing apples to spaceships. Here, those aren't apples to apples comparisons. So, but for now, just to humor you, I'll say Creed. That's what I'll go for now. But you wouldn't be wrong to say Room. You wouldn't be wrong to say Fruitvale Station either. There's a lot of different combinations of answers there. I'm Upset writes, better song, Venom song or the Spider-Verse song? What's the Venom song? Are you talking about Eminem's Venom song? And if so, I don't know what the Spider-Verse song. Sorry, I don't know. You got to be more specific, dude, because I'm not exactly clear on what it is we're talking about. Sorry about that, man. Chef Cook writes, what's the story about Star Trek Discovery lawsuit? Don't know. No idea. Sorry about that. Tracy E writes, got my tickets for Amazon early screening of Aquaman. Me too, December 8th. So excited. The tickets were almost gone. I kid you not. They announced the tickets were going on sale that day. So I went to the thing and they weren't available yet. I was in the studio getting ready to start the John Campea show. And every 2 minutes I was just refreshing the page. Finally, tickets on sale. So I looked in the AMC theaters at Universal City Walk in Los Angeles and Hollywood. Boom, I grabbed 2 tickets because I just didn't know if anybody else was going to be free that day. I bought 2 tickets. To my surprise, my AMC A-list counted as one of my tickets, which is amazing, and got them right away. Cannot wait. Not December 8th. That's December 15th. December 15th, cannot wait. And I didn't buy 2 tickets. I bought 2 tickets for Bumblebee. I bought 6 tickets. You were allowed to buy up to 10, but I bought 6 tickets knowing that I'm going to have friends that want to go. And I got my 6 tickets for that 15th. I cannot wait. And I'll probably get a chance to see it before then, but I'm really excited about seeing it with the movie-going audience. Recrues writes, does DCEU doesn't need Bats or Superman? No, does it need their villains? That's the question. Example, the big one, Darkseid. Let me try reading it again. Does DCEU doesn't need Bats? Does DCEU doesn't need Bats or Superman? No. Does it need their villains? That's the question. Recrues, I apologize, man. Okay, you're saying the next one. My bad. I was meant to say, does the DCEU? No. Does DCEU needs Bats or Superman? No. Does it need their villains? That's the question. Recrues, I'm sorry, man. I apologize. I'm not clear on what it is you're asking. I'm sorry about that, man. Guys, make sure when you're typing in these questions, I feel bad because you're sending these in, and just make sure you word it right and read it back to yourself a couple of times because I'm struggling with it. I apologize, man. I'm not really clear on what it is you're asking. My apologies, man. I really do apologize for that. Nathan Oswald writes, who hotter in their prime, Joan Jett or Pat Benatar? Ooh. That's going back to when I was a kid. I'm going to say Pat Benatar. Hard to go against Joan Jett, but I'm going to say Pat Benatar. But yeah, you're going back a ways there. Gabe Schembarger writes, people are dying, Alfred. What would you have me do? Which one is that from? I mean, it's Alfred, so it's Batman. Oh, you guys in the comments section, which one's he talking about? Jump down to the comments, give your guess. I mean, clearly it's a Batman movie. I'm freezing on which one it is, though. So good one. Good one. Victor Watson just sends a super chat. Thank you so much, Victor. Linda Chavez writes, hey, John, big fan and a Patreon supporter from Peru. Well, thank you so much, Linda. You are a lovely and beautiful person. Honestly, seriously, thank you, by the way, for being a Patreon supporter. The Patreon supporters are the underlying foundation that has kept the John Campea show viable for a long time. So thank you for that so much, Linda, and thank you for sending a super chat, and I hope all is going well down in Peru. RSN2277 writes, hey, John, love your show and been listening since the movie blog days before AMC. Well, thanks so much, man. That's going back a ways. Who can listen for sports, football, basketball, similar to your show? You mean who can you listen to for sports stuff in the way that I do this stuff? Well, I mean, probably a lot. I mean, the reality is, look, when I created the world's first movie podcast, which was the Movie Blog Audio Edition. And this was before the word podcast even existed. But when I created the first movie-related podcast, it was me and Doug. And my whole idea of it was to talk, because when I listened to a lot of movie shows and I read a lot of movie pundits, they all approached it very artistically, and I appreciated that very much. And there's definitely a place for that, for sure. But I was always frustrated because I was like, me and my friends don't talk about movies like that. We talk about it as sports fans. Like, we talk about it the way sports fans talk about sports, and that's how me and my friends who were movie fans, we talked. So my whole thing was I didn't really do anything on purpose, but it's just that's how I naturally spoke. And I kind of saw my show being Sports Center for movie fans. So I did my podcast that way. And then when I created AMC Movie Talk, that was our philosophy, Sports Center for movie fans. And then when I brought Movie Talk over to that other company, that was still the underlying philosophy, Sports Center for movie fans. And when I did the John Campea show, because that's the way I naturally am. I talk about it like a sports fan. So probably a lot of sports shows that sound like me because that's kind of what I modeled myself after. Because I'm a sports fan and I was a big sports radio fan. So, Pardon the Interruption is one of my favorite shows. Around the Horn, Colin Cowherd. There's a bunch of sports guys. So you'll probably find a lot of them that are good for that for sports. But thanks for asking. Thanks for recognizing that, man. All right. Let's see here. Pygar writes, the greatest teacher is failure. We are what they grow beyond. That is the true burden of all masters. Fantastic moment. First of all, I love that whole freaking scene in The Last Jedi. I have my issues with The Last Jedi. There are certain problems I have with The Last Jedi, but overall I liked it, and that was truly a great scene. And I love that speech that he gave him. We are what they grow beyond. And the wording might have even been a little bit differently, but I love the scene. I love that line. It was definitely one of the high parts of the movie for me. So thanks for sharing that. Marie writes, do you think we will see a remake of Mrs. Doubtfire within the next 5 years? And thanks for all the holiday weekend shows. Well, thank you so much for being here, Marie, for the holiday weekend shows. No, I do not think we're going to get a Mrs. Doubtfire reboot anytime soon. Not within the next 5 years. And honestly, with the way the political climate is right now, I think it faces some challenges today that maybe they didn't face as predominantly as they did as back in the day. They wouldn't have faced them nearly as predominantly back in the day when they made it. I think you face certain challenges with today's context that present some uphill battles you'd have to fight. So definitely not within the next 5 years. At least that's my guess. And I doubt ever. Could be wrong about that, but I'm going to say I doubt ever. Simpargar writes, if Soundwave says ravage, eject, in that scene from the Bumblebee movie, I might squeal. It is so cool. Number one, I've always understood why Michael Bay didn't use the G1 designs for Transformers. I get it, and I agree with it too. That's not what they would look like. They were going for more grounded, realistic. How would these alien creatures, how would they look for the metal to move in such a way? And I get it. But even though I get it, there's that child in me that squealed seeing the G1 designs in that Bumblebee trailer. And oh my God, when Ravage ejected at a sound wave, like it was a crazy moment. Will we actually hear Soundwave say, Ravage? How do you do a Soundwave? Ravage, eject. That's terrible. Anyway, Ravage, eject. Laserbeak, eject. Rumble, eject. Oh my God, if he does any of that stuff, you're right. I'm going to squeal right along with you. Nathan Oswald writes, thoughts on Band of Brothers. It's great. I mean, we've talked about Band of Brothers many times on the show. It's wonderful. Recruits writes, Godfather versus Shawshank, better movie. Hard to say. The iconic status of Godfather, which many people believe to be the greatest film ever made, would probably have to give it leverage. But I'll say this about Shawshank Redemption. For you to have a competitive discussion about what's the better movie, Shawshank Redemption, or you would have to put in a movie like Godfather, just for that to be a competitive discussion. Because 999 times out of 1,000, the answer is obvious, Shawshank Redemption. It says something about Shawshank Redemption. To even have a competitive discussion, you've got to put in a movie like The Godfather against it, right? So I will lean towards Godfather. Its iconic status, many filmmakers today consider it to be the greatest film ever made. But it says something about Shawshank that you have to bring up The Godfather in order to have a debate issue about it, right? That says something about Shawshank, but I'll lean towards The Godfather. All right, let's see here. Hands of Stone writes, got tickets to see Superman, the movie, tomorrow at AMC 25 for its 40th anniversary. Very cool. Excited to see it on the big screen again with my son for the first time. That's great. I never did see Superman, the movie, on the big screen. It was a little bit early for me, but I would love to see that. That sounds wonderful. What a great experience. And now, granted, be prepared. The effects do not hold up. But, you know, one of the big things about the marketing campaign for it was such a huge visual effects step forward. Yeah, you're going to watch it and it'll be laughable by today's standards, but at the time, it was so revolutionary that one of the main marketing campaigns for it was, you'll believe a man can fly. Like, they were really pushing the whole visual effects push forward of it all with, you'll believe a man, it'll make you believe a man can fly. And that was the big thing. So just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind for the era that it came out with. You're looking at, it's like, clearly this does not look real at all. But just keep in mind about the era that it came out in. Noah Rogers writes, Best Actress without an Oscar. Whoo. Oh, you know, I'd have to think about it. Off the top of my head, it's hard to not say Amy Adams. Off the top of my head, it's hard to not say Amy Adams. Again, it's something I'd want to sit down and think through, but off the top of my head, it is crazy to think Amy Adams doesn't have an Oscar. She's been nominated, I think 4 times. I think she's got 4 nominations in her career, but and she doesn't have one yet. It's hard not to say Amy Adams, but again, I would have to think about that a little bit. BMC writes, what makes a movie a cult classic? I think, first of all, it's a very fluid term. Many people could apply the term differently and in different ways. To me, cult classic kind of becomes a film that it becomes well known because it had a certain demographic that really latched onto it. That to me is kind of cult classic. But it's a very fluid term. Different people can use it in different ways. And I don't know if there's one exact definition for it, but I don't know. Look around online, Google that, see what different people say about that. Sinpargar writes, I'm 28 now and I still remember the first time I saw a Star Wars movie. It was A New Hope at a friend's birthday party back in grade 3. I know they are all just movies, games, etc., but they are a huge part of my life. Dude, look, seriously, Star Wars is the most formative thing about my creative life. I've said this before, but truly, my earliest childhood memory, I think I was like 5. My earliest childhood memory is my mom taking me to see Star Wars. And I don't have a single other memory that I still have for at least another 4 or 5 or 6 years after that. But I remember Star Wars. And I remember my aunt taking me to see Empire Strikes Back. I'm trying to remember if it was my Aunt Pina or my Aunt Lenora. I think it was my Aunt Leo. I think it was my Aunt Lenora that took me to see The Empire Strikes Back. And I still remember that. And I remember we actually showed up a few minutes late. We got there a bit late. But I cannot overemphasize how influential Star Wars, because it was Star Wars that made me fall in love with movies. And it's my love for movies that kind of set the direction of my life. If it wasn't for my love of movies, I never would have gotten into movie blogging, and I never would have made it my profession, and I never would have come to Los Angeles as part of it. Had I not come to Los Angeles, I never would have met my life. I mean, because of Star Wars and the influence it's had on me, it really set the direction for my life. Never would have met my wife if it wasn't for Star Wars. Never would have had the job I have. Never would have done this. None of it if it wasn't for, as a child, falling in love with Star Wars. And so I can relate, man. I can totally relate. All right, let's move on here. Alanezi DL writes, have you caught up on Arrow? I believe I'm caught up on Arrow. Yes, I'm going to say yeah, because they didn't have a new episode this week, I don't think. I'm going to say this. It's an improvement. It's an improvement. And you know what? I was totally against, because I have not liked anything in Arrow when they kind of separate Arrow from the rest of his team. And it looked like going into this season, they're doing this big prison thing where he's going to be in prison, everybody else doing their own thing. But I got to tell you, I'm digging the Oliver in prison stuff. I am. I think it's presenting Stephen Amell some challenges he hasn't had before, and I think that's been great. So, yeah, I believe I am caught up. Sinpargar writes, my favorite Infinity War scene is still Thor's entrance in Wakanda. Avengers theme starts, bring me Thanos. That was a damn good one. And Bruce Banner going, ha ha, you guys are screwed now. That is a great moment. And oh my God, the way the audience, in every screening that I saw Infinity War in, the reaction of the audience when Thor shows up is explosion. The Bifrost, boom, the mist clears, and there's Thor and Rocket and Groot. And everybody loses their mind. And accentuated with, you guys are screwed now. I mean, it was great. Such a great moment. Brandon Shakura writes, I guarantee they'll make Ratatouille live action, and I'll be there watching with a chef's hat. You know what? That wouldn't be a bad one. Ratatouille is one of my favorite Pixar films. Great emotional depth, definitely a layered movie. And, you know, part of me is a little bit of a foodie and all that kind of stuff. Introduced a lot of us to Patton Oswalt, by the way. I treasure Ratatouille. Love that movie. Peter O'Toole does a voice in it. I believe it's Peter O'Toole does the voice of the food critic at the end of it as well. And I love Peter O'Toole. But, I could totally, that is one that would totally work as a live action one. It'd be tricky. But I'd totally be down for that, Brandon. Sebastian writes, The Mule, Bradley Cooper plus Clint Eastwood, like pecans. I don't know what the like pecans reference is, but The Mule is definitely a movie I'm dying to see. And look, the fact that they moved it to open in December, it's a bad box office decision. But I can only assume, and again, I'm just speculating here, Sebastian, but I can only assume they did it because they think, oh my God, this movie is so worth Oscar buzz that they decided to plant it in December to qualify for the Oscars. That's my only guess, and that only makes me more excited to see it. I think the trailer's fantastic. Obviously, Clint Eastwood's first on-screen appearance in forever. Great. Bradley Cooper is on a major hot streak right now. Cannot wait to see this. Walter Sobchak writes, you're out of your element, Donnie. You're out of your element, Donnie. I don't know it. I'm going to wave the flag on that one. I don't know it, so I'm going to look it up. You're out of your element, Donnie. Okay, what's that one from? Oh, it's from The Big Lebowski. Sorry. How could I miss that? You're out of your element. How did I miss that? I don't know how I missed that, but I missed it. Good one, man. Okay. Let's see here. Chef Cook writes, he tasks me, and I shall have him. I'll chase him round the moons of Nibia, and around the Antares maelstrom, and round perdition's flames before I give him up. I believe that is Khan. And I don't know if Khan was quoting somebody else, but I believe it was Khan from Star Trek, The Wrath of Khan. Still to this day, the greatest Star Trek movie of all time. not a lot. It's interesting. You get a lot of debate whenever you're talking about the best of anything in movies, and rightfully so. That's what it's made for, to have good debate. But you'll get some dissenting opinion. But really, for the most part, I feel like even in Star Trek circles, most people agree Star Trek Wrath of Khan, best Star Trek movie ever made. At least it is to me. It is to me. It remains that to me. Ricardo Montalban, so he tasks me, and I shall have him. Oh, with my last breath I spit on thee. So good. So damn good. Brandon Shakur writes, Disney Renaissance so far, 4 out of 10 films announced made. I don't know what that means. Disney Renaissance so far, 4/10 films announced/made. Are you saying that of all the live action remakes, 4 of the 10 announced ones have been made? That might be true. I'd have to look up a list. I'm not sure. But then again, that might not be what it is you're saying. So I'm not really clear on that. But yeah, maybe. I mean, what have they done? They've done Cinderella. They've done Maleficent. They did. Cinderella was great, by the way. Not a big fan of Maleficent. They did Jungle Book. What's the other one I'm forgetting right now? I'm not sure. Unless you're counting Beauty and the Beast as one of those as well. That might be the one you're referencing. So, a lot more to come, though. A lot more to come. BMC writes, so Julie Andrews has a cameo in Aquaman. Weird. That's a report going around. I don't know if the report is real or true. I heard it comes from the Hollywood Reporter, which would suggest that it's real. That'd be interesting. Why not? Julie Andrews is Julie Andrews. That'd be great. It's always good seeing her on stage. Brandon Shakur writes, Black Dynamite 2 or Game of Thrones Season 8. The other vanish as well. Look, as much as I'm dying to see Black Dynamite 2, I can't not have Game of Thrones Season 8. We've just invested 7 years of watching Game of Thrones. You can't not have the finale. That's just not, you can't have that. So yes, you got to keep Game of Thrones Season 8. Aaron Gell sends in a super chat. Thank you so much, Aaron. Last couple of questions now. Yuhyun Kim writes, Bohemian Rhapsody opened on 10/31, is #1 again in South Korea. Sing-along viewing was amazing. That's awesome. Felt like being at a concert. Love Queen, love your show. Thank you so much. And you know what? The sing-along events are so much fun. And I've only ever been to one. Now, they do them at the Hollywood Bowl all the time, and I've never been to one of those. Recently, they did like a La La Land sing-along. They do a Mary Poppins sing-along all the time. And it's just any kind of an event that you can be at where the audience is joining in and participating and doing that kind of stuff, and you don't have to feel self-conscious about it because that's what you're here to do, the sing-along, is so great. It just adds to the atmosphere. It adds to the whole experience of it. It's great. So I have not heard of any Bohemian Rhapsody sing-alongs here in North America, but that sounds like it would be an amazing one to do. So I'm glad you had a chance to be at that one. I'm glad you enjoyed Bohemian Rhapsody, especially since you're a Queen fan. That's awesome. So thanks for sharing that. All right. Josh Sullivan writes, hey, John, is it just me or did Paramount once own part of the MCU? If so, would they be kicking themselves right now? I don't think they ever owned part of the MCU. I think they had distribution rights. If I'm not mistaken, going back on the history of it, I believe they had some distribution rights for some MCU films, but then eventually they lost those distribution rights. So I don't think there's anything they could have done about it. I don't think it's something they kicked themselves over. I think they didn't just let them go. I believe MCU had the right to take those back, and they got them back, and there you go. Let's see. Pablo Diablo writes, Nin Chin Han played a rich guy who had to be extracted from a building in Hong Kong in both Skyscraper and Dark Knight. Who did it better, The Rock or Batman? Strength and honor to you, Gio. A good little Gladiator reference there. Oh, clearly Dark Knight. Clearly Dark Knight. I like Skyscraper. I did, but it was nothing special. I've seen better Dwayne Johnson movies than Skyscraper. And don't get me wrong. I didn't think Skyscraper sucked. I didn't think it was awful. I didn't think it was horrible. I will say this, though. Unfortunately, the thing I will always have associated with Skyscraper was the fact that the day I saw Skyscraper is the day I found out about John Schnepp. And this was weeks before everybody else knew. I mean, everybody knew, oh, John had an accident, he was in the hospital, but that was the day I saw Skyscraper was the day I actually I found out about the full extent of Schnepp's condition. And I don't ever do this, but usually I turn my phone off. Like, I don't just silence it. Normally I turn my phone off, but I had it on silent, but vibration on. And during Skyscraper, there were a number of times that, I would feel a couple of text messages come in. I'd step out of my seat. Now, fortunately, I always usually get an aisle seat when I go to the movies. I really like having an aisle seat. But I would step out, and fortunately, right in my aisle was a secondary exit halfway up the stairs. So I would get up, step into the hallway around the corner, check the text messages, and it was a lot of me going back and forth with me, Robert Meyer Burnett, Christian Harloff. We were all like texting back and forth a lot that day. And so now whenever I hear somebody bring up Skyscraper, it's a little bit of a pinch. It's a little bit of a pinch because that was a rough day. That was a hard day. And it wasn't until a few weeks later at Comic-Con that the rest of you guys found out about it. But that was a bad day. But to get to your question, Pablo, Dark Knight did it better. All right. Let's see here. Chris Warden writes, considering both Sony and Disney are producing Spider-Man Far From Home, does that mean both studios can use it in its box office numbers for the totals of 2019? You can, but at that point, that's only a reporting issue. It doesn't really mean anything. Could Sony say, hey, Sony movies this year made X amount of money and include totals from Spider-Man Homecoming? Sure. They're the distributor. They can do that. But Marvel, or Sony, or Disney, I should say, Disney, as the company that's actually making the movie, can they say, hey, that counts, we also count that towards our box office totals that year? Yeah, I think it's fair for either. I don't know what the official rules or guidelines are, but there's absolutely an argument that Sony can announce it because they're the distributor, but Disney is the company actually making the movie, so they have a right. So out of all the movies that we made this year, the movies we made this much money. Yeah, so I think both of them probably can. Again, that's just my guess. I don't know if there's any official rule about that, but I'm pretty sure they both have the right to kind of count that in their boasting, at any rate, in their boasting. Let's see. K Major writes, John, How I Met Your Mother has a series finale that completely ruined the whole show for me. It's now banned in my house. Hashtag Victoria is the mother. Talk about fumbling at the goal line. Again, I didn't watch How I Met Your Mother, but K Major, you are certainly not the first person I've heard deeply complain about the series finale that it had. I've heard many, 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 many people complain about the series finale. To me, one of the most disappointing, and by the way, isn't it weird how most great shows have disappointing series finales? There's not a lot of shows that I think there's not a lot of shows, even the great ones, that stick the landing. Like, look at Seinfeld. Arguably the greatest sitcom of all time. Very disappointing series finale. Very disappointing series finale. The greatest series finale of all time is easily Star Trek Next Generation with a 2-part episode called All Good Things. Easily the greatest series finale ever. They stuck the landing, but so many of them don't. And it's just really weird that you bring that up, Kim, because I've heard so many people that love How I Met Your Mother viscerally complain about the finale. And so you're not alone in that. Derek Large writes, over under 30%, Disney remakes Land Before Time, Lion King style in 5 years. I don't know. Different kind of movie. I'm going to take, 30 is a big number. I'm going to take the under. I think Disney has a lot of properties they can remake. I don't think Land Before Time is going to be high on their list. So I will take the under on that. If you set it at like 10%, I might be tempted to take the over at 10%, but at 30%, not only do I take the under, I feel pretty comfortable taking the under on that. So I'll go under on that, Derek. All right. NPE writes, thoughts on Close Encounters the Third Time? Great, all-time classic science fiction movie. Just recently did a re-release for an anniversary. Not a lot of people need to go see the re-release, but absolutely Richard Dreyfuss. I mean, classic Steven Spielberg. It's a great science fiction classic. NP follows up with, hey, John, thoughts on Richard Curtis movies? I'm not really sure. I'm not sure who we're talking about, to be honest with you. Richard Curtis. Oh, the guy, he passed away recently, if I'm not mistaken. The guy who did Love Actually. Or maybe, no, that's not the guy who passed away. I take that back. Sorry about that. The guy who did Love Actually. What other films did he direct? He's only directed 5 credits. Oh, he also did Pirate Radio. I liked Pirate Radio. Not a lot of people saw Pirate Radio. Yeah, but not a name that I knew off the top of my head. Let's see. King Sound for Life writes, thoughts on Donnie Brasco? I love Donnie Brasco. It's great. Nathan Oswald writes, I want Emperor's New Groove live action remake. I don't know that there'd be a lot of people. I don't know there'd be a lot of people that would share that opinion, Nathan, but hey, you do, so maybe some other people do as well. Who knows? All right, guys, that will do it for this really long installment of Open Mic. Thank you so much for being here and being a part of us. Again, guys, I hope you guys are having a great Thanksgiving Day, holiday weekend. I hope you're recharging your batteries, having some fun, enjoying yourself, whether it's friends and family or some much needed alone time, whatever it is, getting ready to go in, conquer, kick ass, all types of things when it comes Monday. We will be back again tomorrow. I'm going to have another Open Mic again tomorrow, so make sure you come back and join me for that. Probably going to have another companion video or two go up this weekend as well. And don't forget, the John Campea Show returns Monday morning at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thank you guys so much for making me a part of your weekend and spending some time here with us, spending some time with all of our fellow film fans. Whether we agree on some things or disagree on some things, that's the fun of being film fans. I'm just appreciative that you're here being a part of the conversation. All right, guys, that'll do it for me for now. Thanks a lot for joining me. My name's John Campea, and until the next video, bye-bye.